Thank you so much for tuning in to the 2022 School Board Candidate Forum hosted by Teaching for the Culture. We are so excited that you are here. It is important that you are intentional with your ballot and the candidates running for school board. Our children deserve the best, and it is your duty to vote for the best candidate. This forum is designed to help you learn more about each candidate so that you can make an informed decision on who to vote for. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Towards the end of the event, you will have an opportunity to answer the following question. If the election was today, who are you voting for? The results will be shared at the end of tonight's broadcast. Please visit our website at www.teachingfortheculture.com to learn more about the events we are hosting and learn more about our mission. Thank you for your support. Good evening and welcome to the 2022 Pinellas County School Board Forum. This is Bianca Goolsby, your moderator tonight, and I just want to have a great event tonight, and I'm thankful for the candidates that are backstage. Teaching for the Culture Candidate Forum follows the nonpartisan, unbiased, and impartial format. Time limits for all comments will be strictly enforced. In fairness to all candidates in the audience, we ask that these limits be respected. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for opening remarks to introduce themselves. The moderator, I, will then ask questions submitted by the community. So that we can address as many questions as possible in the time available, each candidate will have 1 minute to answer the question. Candidates will also have 2 minutes for a closing statement if time permits. In fairness to all candidates, we will rotate the order and how these questions are answered. Let's get started with opening statements, and we are going to start with Lisa.
Good evening, and thank you so much for having me tonight. My name is Lisa Kane. I'm running for Pinellas County School Board, District 2. I am a mother to 4 children who are currently in Pinellas County schools. I have been a community teacher for over 15 years. I am a small business owner, and I'm also a Pinellas County native. I've grown up here. I've been to Pinellas County schools in my youth. And I believe I know what Pinellas County schools needs. I think we live in an incredible district. I think we need to have the best school system in the state of Florida, and we can get there, but we need to really focus on getting back to the basics in our classrooms. We need to be focused on teaching our students what they need to be successful. But I also believe we need to focus on arts education, because arts really is the glue that holds our subject matter together. I'm an arts teacher, and of course, that means a great deal to me, but there's also countless statistics that prove how arts education increases brain function and student performance in every other subject area. A world-class education always begins with the arts and the humanities, and I feel like we need more of that in Pinellas County schools, not only to help with our achievement gap, but to help students excel in all areas of academia. In addition, I also believe we need to be giving students opportunities to become employment-ready graduates. We have a lot of amazing companies in Pinellas that we can partner with to continue to expand our career technical and certification programs here in Pinellas, and I think we need to continue doing that. Every child has their own talents and their own gifts, and whether they want to become career ready at the end of high school or they're pursuing a college path, we also need to make sure they're financially literate, because those decisions that they make financially post high school will affect the rest of their lives. So I look forward to speaking with you further throughout the evening about my platform, but so I thank you so much for having me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And next we will have Brad.
Good evening. Thank you for coming, and thank you for having me. My name is Brad DeCordy. I'm a candidate for School Board District 2 also. And now I'm a product of public schools. My 2 children have graduated, but they did go to Pinellas Public Schools, and I have been in the classroom here in Pinellas for the past 22 years teaching language arts in Tarpon Springs Middle School. My boys so that is what I've been doing for the last few years. I've also been a member of the Pinellas Classroom Teachers Association, who has given me their endorsement. And I've been a member since I came here. And I've been deeply involved in advocating for our schools for the last 15 years through the Classroom Teachers Association. I've been able to go to Tallahassee and discuss topics ranging from class size to funding to mental health issues, all of the issues that are needed to be discussed in our schools and in our communities. This has given me an opportunity to understand. Being in the classroom, I understand what the problems are, not just with the issues, with not just with the teachers. I deal with the support staff, which they also rely on me to represent them. I'm close to maintenance. I understand all the issues that different parts of the school district deal with. So that is what I have been doing, along with teaching my classes for the last 22 years. So I've been, like I said, I've been able to deal with. I've talked to school board members. I attend school board meetings, and I've listened intently to what has been going on in our district. And I think we have some issues that we need to deal with. One is mental health. Another one is equity and excellence of education. We need to be retaining and recruiting teachers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we will have Keisha.
Hello, my name is Dr. Keisha Benson, a pleasure. I was born and raised in Pinellas County. 6 generations of my family live here. My mother was an educator in Pinellas County Schools for 37 years, so education has always been a huge part of who I am. I had a diverse and robust education in Pinellas County Schools, and now 3 of my children are in the district, and I want to make sure that they have the same opportunities. But for me, education is the key to social mobility and generational advancement. So it's not enough that my kids have a quality education. I want to make sure that Billy down the street and Suzanne across the county also has those same opportunities. I'm running for District 3, which is a countywide race. That means that every registered voter in Pinellas County can vote for this seat on August the 23rd. When I think about my platform, I look at cradle to career. So early childhood education, all the way up to getting kids prepared for getting kids prepared for college and beyond. So whether that be vocational training or higher education, what are their gifts and talents and what do they want to do with that? When I talk about early childhood education, I was the director of Thrive by 5 Pinellas, where we looked at birth to 5 outcomes for kids and really getting them ready for school. As I go through the school board race, I consider one part of my platform as resourcing. We know that we have the 4th highest rental rates in the nation right now. We have wraparound services needs. We also have food insecurity across the county. So I want to make sure that educators, parents, and students have their needs met. And how can the school district be partnership in that? The other piece for me is also considering the disparities in the county. If we look at kindergarten readiness rates, 3rd grade reading levels, high school graduation rates, we know that we still have huge disparities. The district has a great plan around equity, but how can we make sure that it's transparent for parents so that they can get their needs met? Our campaign has been going really well so far. We just received the Tampa Bay Times endorsement this morning, and we've also been endorsed by ClearPack, by the Realtors, by the Police Benevolent Association. We have a lot of people behind our campaign, but none of that matters unless voters come out on August 23rd. I look forward to talking to you more this evening about our campaign, and please look at bensonforschoolboard.com. Thank you.
All right, and we have Brian.
How's everyone doing? My name is Brian Martin. I'm running for Pinellas County School Board in District 6, which is North St. Pete, Pinellas Park, Seminole, and then North Reddington Beach down to Tierra Verde on the islands. I've got 4 kids in the Pinellas County schools. That's basically the reason I'm running. I thought it's important that we have our school board members actively invested in public education. I've got a degree in chemical engineering, and I spent the last 15 years designing water treatment and process separation equipment in power plants, refineries, and other industrial facilities. I'm an expert in problem solving and working with diverse teams to kind of reach a common goal. And I'm running for the school board because I have a vision for a strong public education where our teachers feel respected, where our students feel safe, happy, and engaged. Some politicians are starting culture wars to distract from the fact that Florida is the 4th largest economy in the United States and has a per student spending in the bottom 5 nationally. We have the opportunity to elect a pro-public education school board that can push through the current partisan politics and work together to improve public education for our students, families, teachers, and staff. I want to focus on issues all around school safety. Pinellas County currently has a couple of excellent programs involved with the Sandy Hook Promise. Start with Hello teaches all our children to be more inclusive, which prevents social isolation, and I want to continue that. They teach all our teachers and staff to be trusted adults, so that it's someone that our students can go to with concerns and threats. Every school in the district has a team that takes threats and works with the local police to decide what to do with them. But the biggest hole in our current school safety is mental health. And I know the board, I went to a recent workshop, and the board is currently working on that. Our ratios from the 21-22 school year were 1 student to 434, or 1 counselor to 434 students, 1 social worker to 780, and 1 psychologist to 1,089, where the board is currently looking at increasing those numbers dramatically, and I'd like to be part of that solution. I want to run because I think that parental involvement is critically important, especially in the early years. Trying to get more parents involved in the class to volunteer to help out other kids that are struggling. Try to work with mentorship programs to get more people in school. Okay, sorry. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So we got to look at the timer, y'all. We got to look at the timer. Next, we're going to move to Kimberly.
Good evening. Thank you so much for holding this event. I am Kimberly Works. I'm also running for District 6 in Pinellas County Schools. I am a mother of 3 recent graduates of Pinellas County School, and I'm also the bonus grandmother of 4 current students here in Pinellas County. Both of my sons were diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, and I have a grandson with cerebral palsy. So I'm a very big advocate for exceptional student education. I have worked with the PTAs at multiple schools, Pinellas County Council PTA, School Advisory Council, which handles fiduciary issues, for those of you that don't know. I was also, because of my advocacy with exceptional student education, I got involved with the Exceptional Student Education, or ESE department, with the district, and worked with community partners, the administration, different educators, support staff. I was a former trade and career substitute instructor, so I have experience with that. I have been a boots on the ground parent and very involved in the district since I moved here from out of state in 2007. So I am very invested in the district and the decisions that it makes. I have a very big passion for the schools. I loved my time walking the halls, talking to the kids, working with the kids, and working with the teachers. I am very passionate about the educators and advocating for them as well. I have a big heart for this district, and since my last son graduated in 2019, and I've taken a couple years off of being really down in working so diligently, I've missed it. And I want to be able to give back into something that's bigger than I am. So I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to serve on the Pinellas County School Board. So I hope I can gain your faith and your trust. Vote KimberlyWorks.com. Thank you.
All right. And we are going to move to Maria.
Hi there. And just remember, I won't see the buzzer, so I'll have to have you push it.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, my name is Maria Solanki, and I'm running for School Board District 7. I've had a lot of challenges in my life that make me the right candidate. The first one being losing my mom at 4 years old. When my mom passed away from breast cancer, she left a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 9-year-old. And I was raised by a single father. It makes me realize that single parents really count on us to provide the best type of education. They don't have time to keep looking at all these programs. They don't have time with life going on, and we need to be there for these families. I also worked with my father in his business. I learned budgets, so much so that I started my own business when I moved to India, and I grew that to 6 locations. I taught for nearly 20 years, working with children with special needs to gifted and everything in between. I also worked in orphanages and with human trafficked minor girls. The first girl the organization rescued was 7 years old, being raped in the police station by the police officers over and over. I taught these girls how to start businesses. I did all of this while being legally blind. In fact, this makes me advocate for families with special need children. I want to be there for them and for their children because I know the bullying and the challenges that happen for these special needs students. About 6 years ago, I moved back to the U.S. when my daughter was 3, and I began looking at schools. And I tried reaching out to principals in the district and even the school board to make some changes. And my changes and thoughts were always shut down. That's when I began looking at different school options. I was disappointed that we don't look at the children holistically. We have a serious mental health crisis here, and we cannot improve school safety unless we address this mental health crisis. This includes having proper nutrition for children, more outdoor time, less screen time. We cannot dissect them and expect high test scores. I look forward to speaking to you and telling you why I'm so passionate about school choice, nutrition, and mental health and improving the education for our students. Thank you.
All right, and we're going to move to Caprice.
Good evening. My name is Caprice Edmond. I'm running for re-election to Pinellas County School Board District 7. As a parent, former educator, former guardian ad litem, I know what our children need. I've heard from parents, I've heard from educators, and I've even heard from community stakeholders just by going out in the community. I was born and raised here in Pinellas County and attended public schools. I graduated from Gibbs High School and earned a bachelor's degree in psychology, elementary education, a master's in educational leadership, and a certification in infant family mental health, all from the University of South Florida, St. Pete. I am invested in Pinellas County as well as our children in education. After obtaining my bachelor's degree in psychology, I began working with youth in foster care. And that's where I realized that outside of having challenges with their family, school was another barrier. So I transitioned to teaching, working in Title I schools, Melrose Elementary, Fairmount Park, Woodlawn, and the list goes on. And from there, I realized many of the challenges that families, educators, and community members who really wanted to help support students, support families in our schools faced. So I decided to run for office. Running for office to address the achievement gap, advocate for better recruitment and retention, as well as family engagement and so much more. Since being elected during the 2020 election cycle, I have led many policy changes within the district and advocated for recruitment and retention, as well as family and community engagement. Your support will be greatly appreciated. I've also become a certified school board member in such a short time. And I was appointed by my colleagues to be on the board of directors for Florida School Board Association. We need effective and experienced leadership. And on August 23rd, I hope to have your support. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And just give a round of applause to all of the candidates that are here today. Okay, so if you're not sharing the broadcast, please do. And thank y'all for the comments and the love that I see here. Thank y'all so much. So we're going to get started with the first question, and we're going to start with Lisa. The question is, what do you see as the major issue facing your school district and public education?
Thank you so much. I think the most important issue we're facing right now is that we had an educational gap over the span of the pandemic by switching to the digital education and the back and forth, and between the quarantines and everything that happened, we're seeing in Pinellas County about a 2% learning gap. And that's the overall. So some grades are more affected than others. That percent is higher in certain grades and sometimes the more pivotal grades. So I think moving forward, our biggest challenge is going to be to get students back on track to where they need to be, catching up on some of those lost learning gains that we lost over the last year and a half to 2 years. So I think that that's moving forward going to be the number one challenge for our district and many, many districts across the nation.
Thank you so much. Now we're going to move to Brad.
Okay. One of the issues I see is the mental health issue that came about because of the pandemic too. We had students out for a year and a half, and some were even more. And when it was like, and people were saying students were struggling, which they were. Teachers were struggling, counselors were struggling. Everybody in the school system was struggling. And then all of a sudden we said, okay, we're going to put all the kids back. And then we said, okay, they're fine. The kids were not fine. They were out. They had been out for a while, and they didn't know how to react to people. They didn't know how to get together and work together and do all the stuff that they needed to do. One of the things we need are some more wraparound services. We need, as was said earlier, we need the social workers, the psychologists in the school more than 2 times a week, because if you know middle schoolers or any kids, their little breakdowns don't happen on a schedule. And we need those people there to help them when it does happen. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to have Keisha.
One of my points is to make sure that we have a quality, equitable, and safe public education system. So when I think about the word equity, I consider the fact that I talked about being someone who was born and raised in Pinellas schools and coming back to school were more segregated than they were 20 years ago. We know that there are a lot of issues right now. We look at the Bridging the Gap plan. The district has been doing a really good job in some of the areas, but we still have a long way to go. So the district also looks at equity from a standpoint of looking at our early learning students, looking at EL students, as well as looking at our abilities that we have to think about. So we consider equity as not just one thing but it's looking at equity across the board, and also resourcing, making sure that we look at students across the county, that we give them where their needs are, and not just give everyone the same thing. So when I consider some of these pieces, I also think about the fact that some of our students are really vulnerable in our population. And we look at the school board sites, we don't always have the information readily available for them. So making sure that we're resourcing in an equitable manner. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to move to Brian.
So I think the biggest problem we're facing right now is we currently have a 275 instructional position shortage in Pinellas County, and that's a significant gap from what we had last year at this time. So we're going to have a number of students going into class with substitutes, without full-time teachers, and our schools are going to have a real challenge to educate children without teachers. We really need to find a way to get more teachers and increase recruitment. We need to treat our teachers with respect. That'll keep some of the teachers that are currently leaving the profession to stay. And then we need to, try and find a way to increase, salaries to make the jobs more attractive for everyone, because without teachers, we're just sending kids to buildings.
Thank you so much. Let me go ahead and get this timer together. Sorry about that. And we're going to move to Kimberly.
It's funny that Brian and I agree on a lot of things. I do think that the educator shortage is a huge issue for our district. Some things, but I'm going to take it to a kind of a different avenue. Our exceptional student education department, what I'm hearing a lot, because I talk to a lot of the educators in the district, especially in the ESC area, and a lot of them are saying that with the merging of the behavioral health and the ESC department, that's been an issue, and they need more support staff for the exceptional student education department. So I do think the loss of staff maybe in that area is a big issue for those parents, and that's almost 15% of the population in the county. And we do need our teachers back in the classroom. So we need to hit those job fairs and try to gain more access, gain more teachers, and they need to feel more appreciated in our district as well.
Thank you. And we're going to move to Maria.
Thank you. Well, the low performing schools. We have 9 low performing schools in my district alone. Pinellas County has additional ones. There are predominantly minority students that are going to these schools, and 75% of 3rd graders cannot read at a 3rd grade proficiency. When we look at the tests that come out, African American males are at a higher risk for not being educated, and we see the school to prison pipeline. So if they can't read in 3rd grade, they really aren't going to be reading in 4th grade. If they can't read, they're not able to do their math, their science, their social studies. So we really need to be focused on these low performing schools. If we want to address the crime rate, if we want to address the success rate of these students, and the mental health crisis will help us address these low performing schools as well.
And we're going to move to Caprice.
Something that my colleagues and I had the opportunity to do is hire the next superintendent, Mr. Hendricks. And this question addresses so much. So I'm going to go with culture and climate. We know that when the classroom culture is well, teachers feel respected and supported, academic learning improves, academic success improves. So I really believe that it's the culture and climate of our schools that needs to improve, which includes mental health, it includes professional development, it includes family and community engagement, as well as recruitment and retention strategies, and then looking at the whole child through those community resources. Many of the community partners and strategic partnerships that we've established throughout the district, I've had the opportunity to meet and work with. So this is something I look forward to continuing to do when or if reelected to Pinellas County School Board.
All right, thank you so much. Let's go move to the next question. We're going to start with Brad. What would you want to see in the superintendent's budget to address equity and ensure all children receive an equitable education?
What we need to do is we need to find out what's missing from certain schools. Schools are not being treated fairly, and we know that. The equity has to be about all students. We can't just say, okay, this one needs a little bit. No, we have to get in there. We have to investigate. They need to have the supplies, the materials they need. We went to virtual learning a couple of years ago, and we gave out computers to people, but then we didn't have the internet for them. So when we're going to give out something like computers, we need to make sure that we have the internet available, the bandwidth available in schools. So if we're going to be technologically advanced or keep going with technology, we need to make sure that everybody's satisfied, everybody's got what they need to be able to achieve what they should be able to achieve. And there are some schools that need extra, and that's what we need to do. The equity in some of those schools is not there yet, but needs to be. Thank you.
Thank you, and we're going to move to Keisha.
So I think for me, I would want to see, one, the first connection to looking at support staff and teachers to making sure that they have their resources and needs met. When I think about the budget, I also think about strategic partnerships. So it doesn't just have to be the school budget, but who can the school district partner with? So we can partner with municipalities. The school district is the largest landowner within the county. They started getting into the affordable housing market. Maybe we can offer incentives to teachers and look at what that looks like for school personnel so that they can have a living wage and then also have somewhere that they can live and afford within the county. I also want to think about mental health professionals. So I'm a social worker by trade. I've been in the field for 25 years, but we understand the importance of mental health. I know the school district has started to have these conversations in a workshop recently where they're going to make sure that a large number of mental health professionals in schools. So as I talked to a social worker recently that was stretched across 2 schools, she was just saying that the needs of students aren't being met and she's not able to adequately get information across to the board. So looking at those pieces for staffing, how do we stretch those dollars? And then, of course, making sure schools are resourced across the county. We know that when the school district went to a neighborhood school model, we didn't always see that. So hopefully that's in place now. Thank you.
Thank you, and we're going to move to Brian.
So, I mean, the school has a Bridging the Gap program, and in the last 5 years, we've increased the gap in graduation rate from 30% down to 7%, which is a great statistic. Unfortunately, we haven't addressed test scores. Our Black and Brown students are having test scores 30% lower than our white students. So we really need to focus some attention on getting more resources to struggling students. We need to look at community partnerships, as Keisha had mentioned. Maybe we can look into more partnerships with mentoring programs, try to get more access where their families, you got 2 working families or single parents, they don't necessarily have time to, support their kids with education. So if we get more volunteers in classrooms to try and assist some of these kids to pick up reading scores, to pick up math scores, I think that's really how we improve equity in the schools.
Thank you so much, and we're going to move to Kimberly.
I would like to see the superintendent's staff allocation models. And I think that it would be interesting to see his plan and his communication with each individual school and what that school needs, what the leadership of the school is saying that their specific needs are. The school, one particular school may need additional supports, like Brad said earlier. I mean, they may allocate everything equally to each individual school, but one school may need more than another. And of course, not forgetting, like I said before, the ESE population on that. They may need staffing services, therapies, behavioral health. Like with my ESE committee experience and working with community partners, there are partnerships available, like even Keisha said, that see what is available within the area that we may be able to partnership with, and those community leaders that may be able to come in and assist with those programs. But I would like to be able to see what I keep calling Mr. Hendricks has in store for those schools, and what we are able to do with the leadership of those locations.
Thank you. And let's move to Maria.
So a couple things. First, I want to see that we're cutting out wasteful spending. Okay. The next thing I want to see are buses provided to students so they can leave their neighborhood school. There are plenty of students who would love to attend a fundamental school, but they can't. They can't get there, or even magnet schools within a 2-mile radius. I mean, kids can't walk 2 miles if they're that young. We need to provide busing for these students, or public charter schools. And also, if they find another program that they like, then we need to provide that busing for them. The next thing I would love to see is more focus on kindergarten, first and second grade. A lot of times we put all the focus in third grade and above, because that's where the standardized tests have been looking. And so people were teaching for the tests, and the focus needs to start right in kindergarten. Let's get these kids reading at a very early age. Let's put our resources there. The earlier, the better. And yes, so I want to see early literacy and not waiting.
Thank you. And we'll move to Caprice.
Having the opportunity to review the budget as well as be on the school board for over a year, I think it's important that we really look at what resources we have and are we using them effectively. Some of the questions that I constantly ask are we duplicating the resources? Is this able to be paid from a different bucket, or is there a grant that's covering this? So I think looking at that will help us with cutting down or reducing some unnecessary expenditures. I also think that in looking at the budget, I would like to see ensuring that we have equity for all. It's just hearing from the schools. As I talk to principals throughout the county, I am hearing that they need more funds. And of course, the district does not have an endless amount of money, but I like to see how we can support the individual needs of the schools and students that they service. Thank you.
And we will move to Lisa.
Hi. Yes, how can we ensure that our schools' needs are being met throughout the district? And I have to second a couple of comments that I've just heard here, and also speak about something that was mentioned at a previous forum a couple of days ago. We were talking about how some schools are being provided more resources because they have such a strong PTA program, or they have a strong parental support, and other schools may not have that same level of support. And as Capri mentioned, there's only so much money in the district budget in order to provide extra resources for each school. So how can we continue to make sure we're increasing what we're able to provide? I have to agree with what Keisha had said earlier. We need to do a better job of reaching out to the community around the school, and whether that's business partnerships or through community groups or through our PTAs or through other resources, I think we can leverage those in order to be able to provide what each individual school is needing at that time.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question, and Keisha will start off this one. Share the work you've done or visits you've made to elementary, middle, and or high schools in the community you plan on serving in the past 6 months.
Thank you. So while I've been in the school board races, I have not visited any schools personally, but I have been around talking to a lot of teachers, and I've been holding listening sessions with school personnel, teachers, social workers, parents, and community members. In those times when I talk to them, I've been able to kind of just hear their hearts for their children and the things that they're going through. So the educators have talked about the fact that they need resources. They need resources. They need to feel support. They need to feel have a living wage right now, what's going on in our district. And they want to know, with all the legislation coming down right now, that they want some guidance about what they're going to see in this process and how things are going to go. when I talk to different school personnel, they've said some of the same things. They feel like some of the teachers have gotten raises and they're still looking for those opportunities. They're still looking for that living wage within their communities. And they're looking to be seen as support staff in the work that they do and not just have others not understand the importance of what they give to schools. When I talk to administrators, they've talked about the fact that they don't have a union that actually negotiates for them. So they have a union that participate in, but they want to see more of that. So I want to see that organizing for them as well in this process. Thank you.
Next, we're going to move to Brian.
Yeah, so I'm an active volunteer at my kids' elementary schools. I have been for a long time. I'm in 2 PTAs at Shrikers Elementary and Thurgood Marshall Middle. And then when I was thinking about running, I spent some time, I volunteered in classes that my kids weren't in, different grade levels. I went to different schools. I've talked to principals, I've talked to teachers. I thought it was important that since I don't have a background in education, to try and get my toes in the water and just learn a little bit more about what the classroom experience is like. Since I've announced, I've talked to a lot of the community to try and get feedback on, where they're at, what they think about the schools. I've talked to school board members. I'm doing the best I can. I'm drinking water through a fire hose to try and pick up as much information about the schools as I can. I've learned a lot in the last 6 months, and I really think that I can make a good addition to the board.
Thank you. We'll move to Kimberly.
I too have been discussing things with the school board. I've also like I said, I've been in the district for quite a long time. So I've been discussing things with people that I know from the elementary, middle, and high schools that my children attended. So trying to catch up with them and see what's going on. I've also made new relationships. I built a group on Facebook for Pinellas County educators because I wanted to talk to them personally and find out, okay, what are you seeing? What's going on? How do you feel? And, because I'm not a current board member. So it's kind of like, you can say whatever you want. This is an open, safe space. So I've been talking to them about how they feel about things, and I'll post things, little funny memes and that kind of stuff. But I'm trying to get a feel of, because some of the parents are now grandparents, that kind of thing. But trying to work, and I'm still advocating and still volunteering. So I've never really stopped my work that I've been doing in the district.
Okay, and we will move to Maria.
Thanks. So just 6 months ago, we put on a large festival, the first annual St. Pete Community Festival, which was in Campbell Park, and the community members came out. It was a great turnout. I'd say there was probably about 1,500 family or individuals that came out, and we talked to them about issues that were happening and on school choice. I also I also started touring a lot of schools. I went into Lakewood Elementary, Fairmont Elementary, Bear Creek Elementary, among other schools. And I met with the administrator, the staff, the teachers, the students, the parents. And as I continue talking with parents, whether I'm meeting them in the park, I'm meeting them at their door, or I've met them at schools, I continue to give them information about their schools. I listen. We talk about challenges that they are facing currently in the schools. The other thing I did was reach out to every single principal in the district. I reached out to the principals directly. I also have reached out to many teachers, the ESE teachers, and teachers in low performing schools, to the middle schools, high schools, and coaches. So I'm definitely there, and I'm listening.
Thank you so much. We're going to move to Caprice.
Having the opportunity to be a parent, guardian ad litem, former educator, and now a school board member, I have been heavily involved in schools, not just visiting schools to learn more about them, but attending the events that they host for families. For example, the back to school night, the October Halloween Fest at Lakewood, Campbell Park's Halloween event, Black History event, so on and so forth. Really supporting the schools as they build relationships and extend to families and communities within their neighborhoods. I think it's important to also state that just because I'm elected in District 7 doesn't mean that I am solely tied to schools in District 7, because on the school board, I represent the entire county. So I have traveled throughout the county to address the needs and speak with staff, as well as go to schools. Thank you.
Thank you. We will move to Lisa.
Thank you. Currently, I am so honored that my colleagues in the school board had elected me to be the vice chair this year. And so I've had a great opportunity to speak with many, many more schools and be involved in many, many more public school events throughout this year. I know in the last 6 months, I've toured over 35 schools, and we made one of the biggest decisions that I think we've had to make on the board even since I've been elected in 2018, and that was to hire a new superintendent. And that decision really weighed heavily on me. I know I spoke to well over 25 different principals, various administrators, all kinds of teachers throughout the district to get their opinions on what was going well in the district, what they thought needed to happen in the future, what their thoughts were on the candidates that we were interviewing throughout the process. And so I've been very, very involved in lots of schools, and not to mention I have 4 children of my own. So obviously in their schools, I'm involved in the PTA and speaking with the administrators and teachers there as well, just to get a feel throughout the community.
Thank you so much. And we will move to Brad.
Being a classroom teacher, I didn't have the opportunity to get out and visit a lot of any other schools because I was in the classroom all day long. I have been a part of the Classroom Teachers Association. I have been able to discuss issues with teachers from many different schools, teachers, support staff, and everybody else that's involved. I have been to forums where we met with the finalists for the superintendent. I went to the recap or the introduction of our superintendent when he was talking about what his goals were, what he was thinking about, and it had people from different fields, different walks of life, and there were a lot of adults there that I could talk to about how their schools were going. People I didn't know. And so people are willing to talk to you when you say you're a school teacher. They'll tell you what's going on in their schools. So that's what I've been doing for the last 6 months.
Thank you. We're going to move to the next question, and we'll start with Brian. Let me move the timer out the way. There we go. The recent events in our nation have shined a spotlight on our institution's apparent conscious and unconscious racial biases. What are some action steps as a board member to hold people accountable for their bias that directly impact teachers and students?
So I can talk a little bit more on the Bridging the Gap plan with this. Pinellas County Schools has about an 18% minority student population, and yet for out-of-school suspensions and arrests, our minority population represents about 50% of all out-of-school suspensions and arrests. So, I mean, there's a really big problem here. How to address it? We need to have more trainings. We need to get teachers or administrators trained to kind of check their biases. We need to establish a policy on how to review suspensions and arrests to make sure that the actions were taken in an appropriate manner, because we really need to get those numbers down.
Thank you, and we will move to Kimberly.
I agree. One thing that Mr. Hendricks pointed out in his first town hall that he had a couple weeks ago, or probably 3 weeks ago, was that we honestly don't have a very high population of minority staff, which is something, to be honest, I'd never thought about. So that is one thing that I would love to see increased in our district. Two, one thing that he had also said was something that might be not thought of in one area school, in another area school might not seem acceptable. And that is something that we need to address as well. So it's also behaviors by locations of school. That needs to be addressed. We need more diversity in the educators. And it's also, we're also seeing bias in political views. That's something that's a whole different can of worms, but we just need to have more acceptance of one another based on those topics.
Thank you. We will move to Maria.
Thank you. Well, I do agree having a diverse teaching population is very beneficial. Diverse both from melanin levels to religious beliefs to special needs, and having children interact with diverse population helps that child to learn and to get more exposure. But I think what is really important is also having a community liaison between the parents and the school. So if there are issues, this can be discussed. But even more important is really addressing the educational needs of these students. Because what happens when children can't read, can't write, can't do math? They start acting up in class. And from that, those behaviors escalate as they get older. And so little things turn into more school violence. And we see that the low performing schools are in areas with higher minority population. So if the kids are not being properly educated, then they begin to act up. So if we are able to get them educated, we can reduce violence.
Okay, we will move to Caprice.
This is a great question. And I think it's important to make sure that people are aware of the school board policies and procedures and that we're following them. You know, some of the things that have happened just recently as it relates to book bans or controversial topics, I think it's important that we make people more aware of the practices and policies that we have in place, so that we are able to address biases and concerns that parents might have, teachers might have, as well as students. So looking at our policies, there might be opportunities for reviewing or updating those policies, and there might be some policies that we may need to reconsider. I think increasing family and community engagement and having these tough conversations, as well as being transparent, is extremely important. Over the next few days and few weeks before school starts, teachers are participating in professional development as it relates to standards and the most recent laws that have been passed. So making sure that everyone's on the same page as it relates to what they can do or what they're not supposed to do, and how we are inclusive and supportive of both parents, teachers, and staff is important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will move to Lisa.
Thank you. This is a really great question because as recent events have unfolded, there's just a lot of hot topics. There's a lot of things coming to light throughout the nation that have polarized our political community and polarized our local communities. And we need to bring people together. And I think one way to address some of these disparities in opinion, disparities in viewpoint, is to look at our climate and our culture in our schools. It's an initiative of our new superintendent coming in to really address some of those, not only through trainings, but through our action and through our culture that we have created within each individual school, so that people can feel comfortable to come together and have those difficult conversations. That all begins with the culture that we set, not only as board members, but as leaders and as administrators within each school and teachers within the classroom. And it just flows down all the way to the students and also to our outside communities, that we're able to have those conversations. Thank you.
Thank you. We will move to Brad.
I think there's a couple of things here. One is the equity that we talk about, but we don't really, we had equity champions, we had equity training, and we kind of back off on things after a while as district. And another thing that we did, and we spent a lot of money on it, was restorative practice, which I think was a good thing if it's done correctly. I don't believe our district was doing it correctly. They were checking off a box, and we got trained, and I was my school's trainer. It helped when students could get together and talk issues out instead of being suspended. It would help suspension rates. It would help everything in the school if people could have a chance to get together and talk these issues out. It wasn't just sitting around in a circle. It's when issues came up, we came up with solutions as a group. The student who might cause a problem came up with, okay, what do I have to do to make amends for this? And that's what we need to go back to. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will move to Keisha.
So I think it takes all of us willing to have the difficult conversations. I truly value inclusion and diversity in the work that I've done for the past 25 years as a social worker, also in the past 10 years as an educator. I was able to create an Inclusive Diversity Institute for my university to talk to faculty about what it meant to have difficult conversations and dialogues in the classroom. As they had issues approach and kind of blow up on them, they didn't know how to have a conversation. So we talked about just building rapport from the ground up and starting with understanding the differences of students and what that looks like. So when I think about it, I want to make sure that we have a diverse curriculum that's representative of all students that we serve in this district. Also making sure that we have respect for each other in the conversation that we have. We don't have to agree, but having respectful discourse. And that includes parents, educators, community members, making sure that we have transparent data around some of the issues that we're seeing in our district, that we can share that out and have these community conversations, and making sure that any trainings we have are culturally relevant and that they're trauma informed when we work with our students. When I think about the multi-sector work I've done in communities, I've worked in rural and urban, across diverse populations, and I'm ready just to engage across all things. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will move to the next question. We will start with Kimberly. What is your vision for education for the community you hope to serve, and how do you expect to be held accountable for moving the district forward to that vision?
Well, I have a lot, to be honest with you. I would like to build our staff, including educational, food services, transportation, support services, close that gap to lower than 7%. I would like to eliminate it completely. Add to our career programs, strengthen it will improve our literacy rates completely. I would just like to have them in the teens or less if we possibly could to that. And get more parental involvement, parental and community involvement in our schools would be wonderful. I would love to do that. And mend the divide that seems to be help our kids socially that have been having issues with since they've been separated out of school, help them build that confidence back and communicating to one another. I think that would be a wonderful thing for us to be able to do. This is going to be a rebuild year, I think. And as far as holding me accountable, call me out on it. I mean, I know we work as a unit when we're on the school board. We're not one person, but the timer says different. Am I off?
Yeah, the time is up. Okay, we're going to move to Maria.
So one of the things I really want to do is find the right program for each child. When kids are passionate about learning, they learn better. So if that kid needs to go to a STEM program or a private school or a charter school or a magnet school or a fundamental school, I want to make sure that we can get them there. And that includes providing buses for them. I also want to improve the meal program at schools. This is critical for improving mental health. If we are not feeding kids properly, they get sick. They're over medicated. It further distracts them and creates cognitive issues. So improving that is one thing. Getting kids outside more, again, relates back to addressing the mental health issues. We need to focus on the low performing schools and looking at these kids to get them at a literacy rate that is presentable and to improve these so that they, when they graduate from high school, they have a trade program or are college ready. And I also want to cut that wasteful spending so we can improve our staff more. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. We will go and move with Caprice.
My vision for education for the community that I serve is that all children are having their needs met. And we're meeting the needs of the individual child academically, behaviorally, emotionally, and supporting their families. And with that, we will have academic success. I would like to see improved or increased family and community engagement, as well as recruitment and retention. And we talked about equitable practices and policies and the disparities within the district. I know that we have to address those concerns. And since I've been elected on the school board, I had the opportunity to be held accountable, to work collaboratively with community stakeholders, parents, and students to address many of these issues. But there's more work to do. So I look forward on August 23rd to have your support so I can continue to do this important work, from addressing the achievement gap to looking at our disparities and academic success, et cetera. Thank you.
Thank you. We will move to Lisa.
Thank you. My vision for Pinellas County that I hope to see realized is that Pinellas County would be the #1 choice in education because we would be providing success for students across the board, no matter what part of the district that they're in. I hope that Pinellas County schools will be able to look at the whole child, addressing their needs emotionally, mentally, physically, and in all ways, so that they can come to school and be excited about learning and love what they're doing. I also hope that we would provide a welcoming and caring environment for teachers so that they can do what they do best, which is teach our children and create an environment where we're innovating education and we're exciting people about what they're about to do, where we're offering programs that they're passionate about and that brings out their love of learning, not only for the teachers and the staff, the administrators, but also the students, because that's an environment where everyone can thrive.
Thank you. We will move to Brad.
Okay, one thing we need to do is we need to make it a welcoming place for diverse teachers and educators in all the fields. We need to make sure that they feel comfortable, that we are paying our teachers, enough to live in Pinellas County. Make it where it's a place that they choose to come. Another thing is we need community involvement. We need to be reaching out. There's parents out there that they don't know what to do. They don't know how to help their students. We need to reach out to them so that they can help their students too. We can help them help their kids. It can't be done just in, I see my students 1 hour a day. It can't just be that 1 hour that they get everything they need. We need the community to be supportive and part of us. I don't think that we've reached out enough to the community. Some schools have it, some schools have nothing. They don't have much of a community support. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will move to Brian.
All right, education is a foundation that builds upon itself. So I have a vision where all of our young students are reading at or above grade level. When our students can read early, it allows them to continue to learn. We need to improve reading support at the early grade levels at all the schools in the county. We can do this with more paid reading specialists, but also with volunteers and community support. So I think that is a place that we can really improve, and that improves for all students. The third grade reading levels countywide are low, and I know the board has programs in place that are ramping up access to reading specialists, and I'd like to see that continued, but then also improved upon by recruiting community support and volunteers.
Thank you. And we will move to Keisha. Uh-oh, we lost her. All right, there she goes. All right, here we go.
Apologies, there's a storm tonight, so we're having internet issues. So for me, my vision is to have a quality, equitable, safe public education for all students. And when I say all students, that means regardless of race, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, and ability, to make sure that we're servicing the needs of all students within our district. And when I think about what that looks like, it's elevating the voices of parents, students, school personnel to make sure that they're being listened to in this space, that we have student-centric learning and make sure that we're meeting the needs of every student, not just testing to a test or what that looks like, but making sure that we're meeting their personal individual needs. Supporting teachers. We have educators that understand their craft and what they do, and making sure that they know they're supported by the board and they're supported by the district and their unions in the work that they do. Having culturally informed information curriculum, making sure that we have data-driven programs, and then holding me accountable, ensuring that they know they can always talk to me. Having listening sessions for the community. Having transparency in the data and information that we share, and creating clear pathways for them to know how to get their needs met. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to move to the next question. We're going to start with Maria. According to the latest FSA data, 74% of our third grade students were not proficient in reading. I need to say that one more time. According to the latest FSA data, 74% of our third grade students were not proficient in reading. We know that reading is the foundation of a strong formative education. What is your vision for reading instruction in Pinellas County?
Well, I'm so glad you said that 2 times because it really does need to be said that many times. So, the first thing that we need to do is start as early as possible. We do have partnerships with ELC, the Early Learning Coalition, and we should encourage those partnerships, but we can't wait until 3rd grade to make sure kids are reading. We need to work on that straight in kindergarten, as I said before. So I think there needs to be more resources put for the kindergarten, 1st grade, and 2nd grade teachers. Because as I said, if they aren't reading in 3rd grade, 4th grade doesn't get easier. As I've talked to these teachers in middle school and high school, how can they teach when they're making up for all of these years? So we need to allocate resources, but we also need to look at the child holistically, because if we want them to read more, then we need to make sure their mental health is there. We need to make sure they're not just on iPads all day. So these are a few things.
Thank you. We will move to Caprice.
Great question. And this is something that I have seen to be a problem throughout the district. However, I think it's important to highlight the work that they are currently doing as well as expanding. For example, when we talk about early education, Pinellas County Schools has expanded free full day VPK throughout the county to address early learning, early education. They have also partnered with private schools to provide additional professional development for the early learners. As it relates to 1st and 2nd graders, implementing a robust reading recovery program by having our reading recovery teachers work side by side. And I've seen the impact, I've seen the data as it relates to that. Yes, we can do more. We need to do more. And I'm looking forward to see the results from the RAP Stars or the RAP Readers, a new initiative that was just pushed out by Superintendent Hendricks, where we have additional reading recovery. I think we need to look at middle and high school as well when it comes to reading proficiency and addressing that gap.
Thank you. And we will move to Brad.
Okay. I think one of the things we need to do is put more emphasis on the early childhood educational programs. We need to get the kids started, and reading stuff that they care about. We're giving them a lot of stuff that, and I know when they get to me in middle school, we give them a lot of information, a lot of things to read that they don't care about at all. We need the students to want to read. When I was growing up, I loved to read. I found things that interested me. I don't think we should be, when we start telling them they can't read this, they can't read that, well, then that's going to turn them off from reading. We need these programs that help them with that. We also need to cut back some of the testing that we do and give them the time to work on this. We just test them, and they don't really have time to work on what they need to be proficient on the test. So thank you.
Thank you. We will move to Lisa.
Thank you. This is a phenomenal question to bring forth, and a very serious issue that we're facing in many, many ways. And to second what Ms. Edmond had said, the Pinellas County School Board has been very, very focused on increasing early literacy and putting a focus on VPK and K through 2nd grade education moving forward. And also in the past, it's been a focus for the last couple of years in the advocacy committee as we try to get funding for full day VPK programs in Pinellas to better prepare students for reading. But as a mom, I have to say, I really think I'm dealing with this now as I have my youngest just moved from 1st grade to 2nd grade and has been learning to read throughout the last couple of years. And I see a difference in the way we're educating children. I think that we need to put a focus on connecting their reading to other subject matter. Oftentimes it's very spotty, and we are losing their interest. We are turning them off from reading by having them read passages that are unrelated. I think we need to get them back focused on the classics and on books.
Thank you. And we are going to move to Keisha.
So I would say that reading is one of my favorite things. As a voracious reader as a child, the library was my favorite place. And as someone that has 3 kids, I think for me, always being mindful of how do we make sure the kids have access to books, that they have access to age appropriate, culturally relevant material. So it's always important to me. We have a free library in front of our home that we allow neighborhood kids to come to as well. So first and foremost, giving that access to children. I think also, of course, the early childhood part of it, but not just focusing on can they read, can they, do numbers, but also what is their cognitive, social, emotional, mental health. So looking at the whole child and wondering, what is that child experiencing in their life, in their neighborhoods, and what does that look like that may be stopping them from this process in reading? When I think about this, also looking at evidence-based programs, the district has multiple programs, looking at them quickly around the evidence and the data. How are they performing? If they're not performing well, immediately moving towards something else. And then also engage the community. We have the Shirley Proctor Pullen Foundation that works a lot around literacy. We also have the Phyllis Wheatley Ride to Read campaign. We can partner with those community organizations to offer additional support and after school program and things for our children. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move to Kimberly.
Sorry about that. I was trying to find my mute button. The district in the strategic plan talks about the Pinellas Early Literacy Initiative, talking about training highly skilled teachers on specific instruction to help close the achievement gaps and transform early learning and literacy. So that is something that's in the strategic plan. And in strategic goal 2, they talk about the early learning and formative assessment check, which is something that's coming up in the new strategic goal. So, or in the new strategic plan. So I think that's moving forward. And something that Keisha brought up, finding out what's stopping them from being able to learn. And in my training with, and again, with exceptional needs, because that's my background, I also learned that sometimes with children that have a difficulty in learning, sometimes it could be vision issues, it could be hearing issues. So there at times can be things in the background that can be preventing a child from being able to learn how to read. So sometimes it's a good idea to have vision check, ear checks, those kind of things. So that might be something that we could look into, because I know back in the day that we used to have those programs in place for our kids.
Thank you. And we'll move to Brian.
All right, so Pinellas County actually has a really impressive kindergarten readiness statistic, thanks to the Early Learning Coalition and the push for BPK. But I think our biggest struggle comes with how we learn to read in kindergarten. My oldest daughter went to kindergarten in Buffalo, New York. And at that school, it wasn't just learn your 25 sight words. I mean, we had reading journals. The class sent multiple books home every day, and we changed them out every day. Parents were held accountable to making sure that, you spent 30 minutes, 5 to 7 days a week working on reading at home in conjunction with a learning class. So I think a stronger push at the early levels will give them a boost in first, second, and then by the time they get to the 3rd grade reading assessment, they'll be doing a lot better. And then to couple that, we got to get more community partners to help assist with, families that don't have time because they're 2 working or single parent households.
Thank you. Now we have 2 questions that are left before we do closing statement in the poll. We're going to start with Caprice with this question. The Florida Department of Education deemed social emotional learning and culturally responsive teaching as unsolicited strategies in our state standards. What is your understanding of those terms?
Culturally relevant teaching is something that I believe Dr. Keisha Benson referenced, or maybe culturally responsive teaching. It's extremely important that children see themselves within the curriculum, as previously mentioned. It's also important that children are taught how to think critically, how to handle their emotions, how to team build and collaborate. Fortunately, within Pinellas County Schools, when we were discussing the reading curriculum and I was advocating for additional phonics being taught within our curriculum, I learned that social emotional learning techniques and strategies will be embedded throughout our reading curriculum. This is something that's needed. It's something that's fundamental to having well-rounded children who are critical thinkers. Those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. We will move to Lisa. You're muted.
I'm sorry, I was muted. I think these terms mean different things to different people, and I think that's why they've come under the hot seat politically in various arenas because it means different things. From my understanding, culturally responsive teaching is teaching students to see the world, understand how they see the world and what lens that they're viewing the world through as they're learning. It's using things like their culture to help them to understand concepts in education. And I believe that social emotional learning can be as simple as teaching our students to sit quietly and socialize respectfully with others. Learning to listen to the teacher, raise your hand in class are all really, those are social emotional skills that are being taught in the classroom every single day. And they're important for the way that students can function in society later in life, learning to work with a team and be respectful of your peers.
Thank you so much. We will move to Brad.
Okay, to me, the culturally responsible is being able to use literature or text from different cultures, letting people learn about different cultures. It's not, we're not one culture here. We're a diverse community. We need to be diverse in our learning. Social and well, the other part, I always have trouble with it, is teaching students how to act together, how to work together. They have to have an understanding. They have to have some social time. I know in younger grades, early grades, they don't have that social time anymore that they used to have to try to figure out how they work together in a community. People are all into themselves, and we got to let the kids know that that's not, they got to be able to work together. That's part of the learning that they have to do in school, and they should be getting that. I don't know why anybody would be upset with any of that. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will move to Keisha.
So I think the interesting part of this for me is when we talk about CRT, the words are unfortunately being used interchangeably. So there's critical race theory that is taught in higher education and not taught in K-12 schools. And then there's culturally responsive teaching. Culturally responsive teaching is just making sure that kids have access to curriculum, books, information that's relevant to who they are in their history. And we're going through a season right now in our government where we're taking those things out of school. So when we think about if education is meant to have, on the other side of this, social mobility, civically engaged individuals, they have to have correct historical information for what they need. And culturally relevant teaching gives that information. When I think about social emotional learning, that was put in because of the Parkland shootings. After Parkland, the government decided that they want to put social emotional learning throughout the curriculum. We haven't given enough time to see if that works. Social emotional learning skills are so important. I'm the parent of a 6, 8, and 9-year-old. 60% of my parenting is talking about big feelings and emotions. Children need that support. They need to have those conversations. They need that mental health piece of that. So I do think it's needed in the schools. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will move to Brian.
Right. So social emotional learning is a strategy that's used to help students develop self-awareness, self-control, and interpersonal skills. Students learn to better understand their own emotions, and then they can develop empathy for other students. Social emotional learning has a positive impact on student success. There are studies that show that there's up to a 16% increase in academic achievement where students are, learning social emotional topics, throughout their educational journey. And then social emotional, it's not a core subject. It's typically integrated into other subjects, which is also true with culturally responsive teaching. Just trying to get students to learn about other backgrounds, learn about people that are not themselves. It really develops empathy in our students. And as Keisha mentioned, the idea is to have students think about how their actions impact others. And, so just spending a small amount of time teaching students to be more thoughtful of themselves and others, it benefits the community. It's a great way to improve our next generation of community members.
Thank you. We will move to, I'm sorry, I lost my place. Kimberly.
What I think is interesting about this is an educator can be educating a classroom and educating them based on the environment that they're in and the diversity of the class. And that is culturally relevant teaching to me, teaching the students for who they are. And to me, I have no issue with that. I think that, we've been doing that probably this whole time, but now it has a label, and that's where things start getting sticky. Now, as far as social emotional learning, or SEL. There's 5 core competencies of it: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision making. And there's, we've been doing that too, telling children to learn to sit down. Hey, be nice, be respectful. And those are all things that we're implementing. Now, I don't basically support it as its own curriculum. I think we have other things more to focus on, but it's something that our educators can implement in their educational day that would benefit our children and teach them how to be responsible members of society and responsible students on our campuses. So I have no problem with our educators doing that.
Thank you so much. And we will move to Maria.
Thanks. I may or may not be the only candidate running that has an interracial family. My husband being an immigrant, brown immigrant, and having a biracial child. CRT does have different meanings to different people, and this is what the confusion is. So if we talk about CRT as far as a person of less melanin oppressing a person of more melanin, well, families did not like this idea of teaching children to this divisive attitude. However, when we're talking about embracing different cultures, absolutely we should. I mean, I was totally shocked when I've met my husband and his family, and I think it's great to take this into consideration. As far as SEL goes, yes, the foundation of it is great. What families are concerned about is that other ideologies that contradict the family and their morals come into place. But yes, we do need to consider the emotions of children. But I think before and after school programs could greatly help with this, and parents can opt into it based on what aligns with their teachers at home.
Thank you so much. And we're going to move to our last question for the night. We're going to start with Brian. Statewide, Black students continue to be disproportionately subjected to expulsionary discipline, arrest, and harsh punishment like being charged as adults. What policy and work as an elected official will you commit to doing in order to combat this systemic issue?
I talked about this earlier. The in school, out of school, and suspensions and arrests are way disproportionate to our student population. Our Black and brown students are facing much more severe punishments at much higher rates. We need to work on training, and as Brad had mentioned with restorative practices, we need to get why people don't like restorative practices, and I've heard teachers say it, it's just we're letting kids get away with murder, right? But that's not how it works. If that's how it's implemented, then it doesn't do anything. Well, we need to get groups together to try and get kids to change their behaviors. Teach our teachers to not disproportionately target and punish our Black and brown students. But if there's a problem, then something needs to be addressed. But we need to kind of maybe get with our students and find ways to restore their behaviors.
Thank you. We will move to Kimberly.
I agree. I think we need to bring back the restorative practices. They need an opportunity. We need to stop that school to prison pipeline. We need to work with our kids, and this brings back the social emotional to some extent. We can be inspirational adults to our students. And, I know educators, well, our job is to educate, and I get that. But, how many of us have those educators that were inspirations to us as youth? And, I'm over 50 years old, but I still have educators that I remember when I was a child that just meant the world to me or changed my life. And, that's what we are, and that's what we can be to our youth. But I really would like to see us address the roots of the misbehavior and find out what we can do. What services are there? How can we reach out to the families? Is there something that we can intercede with as a district? Because, we are more than just an administration or teachers or what have you. We can help our families too in our communities.
Thank you. And we will move to Caprice.
So something that I've done on the school board currently is advocate for policies that address the issues that you mentioned within the question, from working collaboratively with community leaders, the Legal Defense Fund, NAACP, as well as law enforcement agencies to come to an agreement as it relates to the interagency agreement, which establishes the roles of students, parents, officers, as well as administrators in discipline. And also looking at our student code of conduct and making sure that those items correlate with what we're telling people that need to occur, making sure our policies and practices match what we're asking people to do. I think that there are several areas where we can continue to improve. Again, looking at the data, addressing the disparities and making sure we're using common language throughout the district as it relates to these issues and so much more.
Thank you so much. And we will move to Keisha.
So this is an issue that's near and dear to my heart as the mother of 3 Black children that reside in Pinellas County School District, and the work that we do here. When I think about, I saw that School Board Member Edmonds pulled off the consent agenda for the interagency agreement. And I appreciate that. Giving opportunity for parents and community members to come in, have a conversation about it, being clear about what it means and how organizations are operating around our children. I think another piece for me is also to consider culturally relevant and trauma-informed training, making sure that our school personnel and school resource officers are aware of that. And even in talking to the school resource officers recently, as I was endorsed by the Suncoast Police Benevolent Association, I heard them say to me, sometimes we get pulled in situations that have nothing to do with us because the educators don't know what else to do. So making sure that we're clear about what their job and responsibilities are and not pulling them in situations that should be handled by the school district with disciplinary issues instead of making them a criminal justice and a safety concern. I think also considering what our community partnerships are and make sure communities involved from every step of the way in this, and really making sure that we support our students and have social emotional learning and skills in schools. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will move to Maria.
So a quick couple things that I've already mentioned. One, having diverse population of teachers. The second, having a community liaison. Sometimes parents feel that they aren't being heard or understood by the administration. But I think, I trust the police. I love Chief Williams, but we need to come back to the root. And the fact of the matter is, when kids are not educated, they begin to act up. It starts off as a class clown. They are then sent to the principal. They're then grows into more violent behavior as they get older. So if we come back to the root of dealing with children who cannot read, cannot write, cannot do math, I think we're going to eliminate a lot of behavioral issues. So I always come back to the root, and that's where it is. Having more community involvement before and after school programs for their mental health as well. So parents can decide which program is best for them.
Thank you. And we will move to Lisa. You're on mute.
Sorry, I was trying to be respectful, keep it on mute. I think that when looking at the district, involving our law enforcement and in the push, that needs to be a last resort. We need to work on our rehabilitative process for students who are seeing an increase in behavioral interruptions and behavioral and I'm thinking that perhaps we can look at things that might work better than restorative practice. Maybe there's more out there that we haven't researched and we haven't looked at that could improve that. Because we've been using restorative practice for a number of years, and it doesn't seem that the statistics are showing that it's made a great impact on those percentages. So I think that we need to look outside the box, think about how we're training teachers to deal with an increase in behavioral instruction, how we are training them, what training programs are they using for this that are making an actual impact. And I think we really need to look at that at the end of the day, is what is working and what is not. And we need to focus on increasing what's making a difference.
Thank you so much. And we will move to Brad.
Okay, I'm going to go back to restorative practice. I think we did not give restorative practice a chance. We started it, but the district did not follow through. We used to meet with members from the district every month as the Human and Civil Rights Committee for the union, and then they stopped showing up. We didn't get the money. We stopped the training of some of our newer teachers. We didn't give it a chance to fully realize whether it's good or not. It works other places, but we need to go back to it and do it right. This also, when it comes to some of these issues, it comes back to the mental health issues and some of the problems that students might have, and they need that help. They need that counselor that's doing testing instead of counseling. They need the psychologist who comes twice a week, but that's not the day that they need them, or the social worker. We need to be proactive instead of reactive. And that's where we make a big mistake.
Thank you so much. And let's just go ahead and give a round of applause to everyone answering all of these questions tonight. Okay, so we're going to move to closing statements. Candidates, you have 2 minutes. We're going to start with Lisa.
Thank you. It's been an honor to be here this evening, and thank you to everybody who's watching for taking the time to really get to know your candidates, because your vote is so important to the students of Pinellas County and to all of our teachers, administrators, and everyone who is involved in the district. This vote is very, very important. And so I would like to state that I really would be humbled and honored to receive your vote and to receive your support in this upcoming election. As a mom of 4, next year I will have students in all the grade levels. I'll have 2 in elementary, I'll have 1 in middle school, and a high schooler starting next year. So I bring to the board a wide perspective on what is happening in our district at different levels. In addition to that, I'm an arts teacher in the community, and I teach about 200 students locally from all different ages, from 5 to 18, all different schools, all different ages in different parts of our community. And I get a very wide perspective of their needs and what is happening in the community with parents, with students. And as a teacher, I can empathize with what is happening within our schools as well. And as a business owner, I bring to the board a perspective financially that is a little bit different, because I do work in the business world as well. As my vision for Pinellas County, I would like to see an increase in our arts education. That is my #1 platform, as I believe it increases our students in every academic area. I also am a really firm believer in creating additional partnerships with our community to improve upon what we offer to attain career-ready graduates. We need to be offering more opportunities for students that want to go straight into career after high school. And with that, I want to thank you all so much for listening. Please vote Lisa Kane, and you can visit my website to see more at lisakane.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We will move to Brad.
Okay. Once again, thank you for coming. I am a classroom teacher. I have been in there for 22 years every day, seeing what's going on. And the reason I got into this race was just that I had an issue. I had solutions to help deal with the problems that we have. I've seen a lot of the different problems. I see why teachers are leaving. I see where the students are struggling when they have emotional problems. I've seen that. Now, I don't have any students. I don't have my own kids in school, but I went through the school system with them. They were here in Pinellas. When they were in the high school in the band, I volunteered as a band prop dad. I was on the field with them for 7 years in the arts program. So I understand the arts program. My sister told me that her young granddaughter, and I said daughter, her young granddaughter wants to be a teacher when she grows up. She's real little. And I'm hoping that I can do something to help make it better for teachers to come into the profession. We are losing teachers constantly because I don't think our school board or our administration is listening to teachers. We used to have a climate survey that I would hope to institute again that actually meant something. I've been the trainer for the restorative practice, so I understand that. And I think that I would be a person that wants the district to be more self-sufficient. We don't need to have the state telling us what to do on everything. We need to be we need some local autonomy with our school board, and we need to tell the state that that's what we want and that's what we're going to do. I'm not in agreement with all the stuff that's coming out of Tallahassee. And so that's where I stand on the issues. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will move to Keisha.
Hello. So it's been an absolute pleasure tonight, everyone. I'm the home team. This is my home. This is my community. I'm not running for office because I need a position or prestige or a salary. It's because I love children and I love all children. And I will stand on the dais every single day and tell people that I love all children and to know that I will advocate for all children, families, school personnel in this sense. I'm a parent of 3 children. As I said, they're 6, 8, and 9. So we're here for the long run. We'll be in the district for the next 8 to 10 years. I'm the only one in my race with children currently in the district. I'm also an educator. So I've been a professor for the past 10 years. And I've taught through the pandemic. I know what it's like. I know how hard it is. I also had those 3 children home for 8 months during this time. So I understand the struggles that teachers are going through and parents. And it's hard right now in our county with everything that's going on. So I want to make sure that we resource and really think about what the needs are around our district. I'm also a community advocate. I've worked with communities for the past 20 years and really diverse populations and leading system level change. I've worked with CEOs, municipalities, community leaders, parents across our district to see what are the needs and how do we meet them. So I think I'm someone that's really level-headed. I'm someone that doesn't run away from conflict. As long as it breeds innovation and as I said, we can have good dialogues and kind of think through these problems and solve together, I think we'll be fine in that situation. I want to tell you about a little bit of my education. My undergrad and master's are in business. I have a second master's and PhD in social work. And education is just really important to me. But I always tell people that I got these degrees so I can have a seat at the table to have conversations about my community and people that look like me, because we're not always at those tables. And I think that's something interesting to consider here also, because the school district has only ever had one minority in a countywide school board seat. And that was probably over a decade ago. So I think it's time to really think about what representation looks like in our district. You can vote for me on August 23rd. Please multiply that vote. If you like me, tell 10 other people about me. There are 700,000 voters in the county, and we need your support. BensonForSchoolBoard.com. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will move to Brian.
So I just want to start with thanking everyone for being here and being engaged. Local elections are critically important. I'm a native Floridian. I was born in Bradenton, just across the bridge. I think it's important that we have teachers represented on the school board, but I don't think every school board seat needs to be a teacher. I'm a father. It's a voice that I may be the only father on the school board in the upcoming cycle. So I think we just need to have that representation. I'm not committed to any partisan politics. Public education is supposed to be a bipartisan effort to improve the lives of our children and in turn our future community. The Times recommendations came out today and they referred to me as a practical problem solver. And I think that's a very fair assessment of how I operate. You know, I'm using my engineering background and critical thinking skills to try and attack problems maybe in a direction that, you know, the current board doesn't see. I mean, the board, there's a lot of problems in public education, and a lot of that is funding based, as Florida is in the bottom 5 in per student funding. But the board is a team effort. The board's not always at each other's throats and arguing. I mean, everyone is working collaboratively to try and improve public education. I've been endorsed by the Pinellas Classroom Teachers Association, the Pinellas Educational Support Professionals, Florida Education Association, Florida Freedom to Read, Equality Florida, the National Organization for Women Florida, SEIU. And I just, I want to be a school board member for all of our children, all of our families, all of our teachers, and all of our staff. So that's why I chose to run, and I hope you'll visit my website at votebrianmartin.com. Maybe throw me a few bucks and volunteer with the campaign. I think it's important we elect the right people to school board.
Thank you so much. We will move to Kimberly.
Thank you so much for having me tonight. I really appreciate it. This has been a great forum. I just wanted to say again that I have been a boots on the ground parent and now grandparent within the district since I moved here in 2007. I have worked with the PTAs, the school advisory councils, the ESC committee, working with community partners, helping learn about disabilities and working with curriculum. I actually was a performer. I've been a performer all my life since I was 4. So I do have a very big arts and theater background. I was a trade and career instructor for cosmetology. I've had my license since 1991. So I am very big and very supportive of trade and career. I have, if any of you are familiar with Six Sigma, I have Six Sigma belts in business. In business administration and also in project management. So I am not uneducated. I just really feel that my experience with the board and all of the facets, including fiduciary, advocacy, parental and community involvement, makes me a very strong board member. And I agree with Mr. Martin. The school board needs to be a diverse group of people that all are very invested in the future of our district. And I want student success and whatever that means for them. For some students, it's not college. For some students, it's career. And if we can channel that into every student and make them as successful as they can possibly be, that is what I want for them. And that is what I have always done. And I would love the honor of being able to walk these halls and talk to these principals and administrators and say, what can I do to help you make this a better place? And that is what I'm looking forward to. And I really hope that I can gain your trust and respect and your vote on August 23rd. My website is www.votekimberlyworks.com. So hopefully, as Brian said, if you are behind me and have faith in what I'm doing, if you would vote for me, I'd appreciate it, or throw me a few bucks, that would help too. And I also agree, this is a nonpartisan race, and I've run that very strictly in my campaign because I'm only for the kids and I'm for your kids. So if you have any questions, let me know. If you would like to speak to me about anything, I am all ears and I'm all for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're going to move to Maria.
Well, thank you so much for having this forum tonight. We know that schools that have parental involvement perform better. We know that students that have their parents involved are higher. We need to keep that parental involvement. I believe so much in parental involvement that parents can make the best choice for their child, that grandparents can make the best choice, that I will support those parents in whatever program they find to be the best for that child, whether that's homeschooling, whether that's their neighborhood school, whether that's a charter, private, fundamental, or magnet school. Parents are the best people to judge accountability for their child, and we can't just look for cookie cutter situations based on zip codes. We also need to pay attention to the mental health. This needs to be a priority because if we are stressed, then we're not ready to learn or do our best. And the same thing goes for children. We need to make this as a priority. I think nutrition needs to be a top priority. Now, there have been some people who absolutely love this and a very few people that have thought, well, this is not important. But when you look at the facts, 1 out of every 3 people diagnosed with diabetes is a child. And nearly 20% of Florida students are obese. And that number doubles if they are a minority. What happens when kids are put onto more medication? They have more side effects. They go to the doctors more. There's more bills to be paid. We need to look at children holistically. If we're already providing them food, let's just provide them nutritious food. We'll have better mental health from this as well. So also getting children outside more, connected to nature. I've toured these schools. The blinds are closed. They're on the iPad sometimes, not all the time. Let's get them out. Take that book outside. Let's look at children and not just dissect them. We'll get the test scores that we want when we do this, but we can't just divide them up. On or before August 23rd, I appreciate your vote. My website, mariaforstudents.com. I'm here for you and looking forward to speak more. Give me an email or give me a call. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to move to Caprice.
This has been such a fantastic forum. And as your current school board member, I just want to say thank you to all the people that are currently listening. And thank you to the people who have contacted me throughout my tenure on the school board and worked collaboratively to address issues facing our school district. Some of the things that I would like to continue working on is improving academic success for all children, supporting the needs of the whole child, getting back to improving family and community engagement, looking at our policies and procedures, and so much more. During my tenure, I've advocated for strengthening our policies, for improving family engagement, and looking at the data. I will continue to ask questions, make suggestions, and be responsive to community members who have questions. I have hosted virtual town halls, attended community meetings, and I will continue to do so because I believe together we can improve our schools. I am a parent, a former guardian ad litem, a former PCS educator, and a certified school board member through Florida School Boards Association. And as we've learned and discussed throughout this forum, there's much more work to be done. And together, we can improve our schools. I have been endorsed by PCTA Pasco, Equality Florida, Pinellas Realtor Organization, and the Tampa Bay Times just released their recommendation of our campaign today. Again, there's so much work to be done, and together we can improve our schools. So on or before August 23rd, please vote Caprice Edmond for Pinellas County School Board. We need effective and experienced leadership. And with your support, we will win. My website is edmondforeducation.com. If you'd like to volunteer or make a donation, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Sorry, y'all. I was muted. Let me say that again. I just want to give the candidates a round of applause. Okay, so now is the time that we are going to do the straw poll. Okay, now you have 15 minutes. I'm going to put the timer up here. So this is an opportunity to call your people and be like, hey, vote for the straw poll, because after the 15 minutes is up, it's closed and we're going to post the results. So I just want to thank you again for tuning in. I'm going to start the clock now. The link is in the comments. I'm going to place it here as well so that you can sign up and get involved. You don't have to sign in, but the question is, if the election was today, who would you vote for? So I'm going to start the timer, put some music on, Safe Space. You could find that on Spotify. Teaching for the Culture is our soundtrack that we have. And I will post the results as soon as they're done. Thank you. 60 seconds. All right, here we go. All right. So we're going to get this together. If you enjoyed the music that was in the background, that is Safe Space. You could find that on pretty much all the major players here. Wherever you stream your music, it's on there. So just thank you for that. Let's go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to share the results. We're going to do this in real time. And I just want to thank all the people that participated. But before I do that, I'm going to make sure that I close this poll up because we're not accepting any other votes at this time. Let's close this up. All right, here we go. All right, the poll is closed. All right, so let's go ahead and share the results here. All right, so if the election was today, who would you vote for District 2? Let's go ahead and hit enter here. And Brad takes for District 2, so say congratulations to Brad. We're going to move on to the next section here for District 3. We have Keisha winning the straw poll for District 3. Congratulations. Let's move on to District 6. We have Brian with District 6 taking it home. And last but not least, District 7. It was a tie. Wow. This election is going to get real interesting, folks. So I just want to just thank everyone for participating. Thank you for your love and support and supporting Teaching for the Culture. We are going to be sharing this broadcast. So if you missed it and you're watching the replay, thank you for being here. And thank you for the candidates for spending your time here answering these questions. I hope that you have an amazing night. Y'all take care. And until next time, we have a next school board forum with Manatee County. So please make sure you check out our website for the dates as we continue our saga completing the school board forums for the Tampa Bay area. So I love you. Have a good night. And until next time, peace.